Branch 2 Field Rep Study Manual. Integrated Pest Management. Integrated pest management has been a tool used by the pest control industry long before it became popular with environmental groups. The recent popularity of IPM in some ways has been a boon to our industry, as it points out that chemical applications in concert with improved sanitation and ongoing maintenance will ensure long-term control of pests. IPM programs should consist of 4 basic parts: inspection, eliminating conditions conducive to pest infestations, treatment, and regular follow-up inspections and monitoring. Customer cooperation and education are also very important element of IPM programs. Inspections should answer the following questions and should be accompanied by a written inspection report outlining findings, recommendations, and a diagram showing where the findings are located. Interior. Is the interior in need of cleaning? Are there plumbing leaks and/or standing water conditions? Are the interior walls in need of paint and/or washable surfaces? Are there holes in walls, missing tile, grout, or missing wall plates? Are there floors in need of repair or in need of washable surfaces? Are there improper storage practices? Are there rodent entry points? Is there excessive garbage and/or trash? Is there evidence of rodent or insect infestations? Exterior. Is there overgrown foliage? Are there plumbing leaks and/or standing water? Are there trees or bushes touching the eaves or roots? Are there pet food and water dishes left out overnight? Are there areas of improper storage? Are there any rodent entry points? Are there an adequate number of garbage containers? Has fruit fallen from trees? If so, is it regularly picked up? Is there evidence of rodent or insect infestation? Pesticide applications. When inspection results reveal existing infestation that needs to be eliminated, selecting an appropriate pesticide is the next consideration. Pesticide selection should be based on target pests, the areas of application, method of treatment, and re-entry times. Most importantly, read the label. Further inspection. Establish regularly scheduled intervals for site inspections and/or treatments. Establish regularly scheduled maintenance and cleaning programs. Use monitors to detect future infestations of rodents and insect pests. Pesticide label. The label is the law. Failure to comply with label instructions could result in a misdemeanor, fine, and/or loss of license. You must read and understand label instructions before you purchase the pesticide, before you mix or apply the pesticide, before you store the pesticide, and before you dispose the empty pesticide containers. Label the pesticide begin use must be legible. Complete and available at the site of the application. Labels contain the following information: trade name, which is the name given to the product by the manufacturer; chemical name, describes the chemical structure; common name, shortened chemical name; formulation, such as emulsifiable concentrates, wettable powders, granular, etc. Percent of active ingredients, name and percentage of active ingredient; percent of inert ingredients, common percentage of ingredients with no pesticide action. Label info continue. Contents measured in gallons, pounds, etc. EPA registration number, number used in chemical reports. EPA establishment number, identifies where and when the product was manufactured. Signal word, danger, warning, or caution, which denotes toxicity. Precautionary statement, describes pesticide hazards and what type of protective equipment is needed. Directions for use, names target pests, where pesticide can be applied in acceptable methods of treatment. Storage and disposal directions provides directions for storing pesticide and disposing of empty pesticide containers. Dilution and application rates breaks down application and dilution rates by site and target pests. Statement of practical treatment, first aid instructions for accidental pesticide exposure. Label instruction must always be followed, except when decreasing the dilution rate, for instance, using less active ingredient per gallon as was recommended by label, except when decreasing the application rate, using less diluted material per square foot as was recommended by label, except when applying less frequently than labeled specifies, except when used to control a target pest not listed on the label. This is acceptable only when the application is to a site listed on the label, and the use of the product against an unnamed pest is not expressly prohibited. Service container label. Service container labels are used when a diluted or undiluted pesticide is stored in a container other than the original. This applies to application equipment, as well as chemical storage containers. Mandatory information on service container labels: the signal word, the common name of the active ingredients, the name, address, and phone number of the registered company responsible for the container and the pesticide, EPA registration number, recommended, not required. Never put pesticides in containers used for food, drink, or household products. Material safety data sheet. These documents are similar to a label with the exception that there are no target pests, application instructions, or dilution rates. It covers technical detail relating to chemicals, spill cleanup procedures, poisoning symptoms, and care and information regarding inert ingredients. MSDS should be kept at your workstation truck with the label product. Pesticide formulations. Pesticide formulations reflect the way a pesticide is manufactured, where it is applied, and what type of application equipment is required. Tank mix formulations, or handheld or power sprayers. Emulsifiable concentrates. Formulation with emulsifiers or detergent, which enables petroleum-based active ingredients to mix with and suspend in water. Soluble powder. Formulation of powder which, when agitated, dissolves readily in water and becomes a true solution. Wettable powders and flowables. When mixed with water, it does not dissolve but remains suspended. Microencapsulated. Active ingredients encased in tiny polymer capsules which gradually degrade, giving off measured amounts of pesticides over a period of time. Formulations applied with a granule spreader. Granular. Active ingredient uses clay or ground up shells as a carrier. Can be coarse or fine when used as bait. An attractant is also part of the formulation. Formulations applied with a hand or power-operated duster. Dust. Active ingredients impregnated in finely ground particles. Formulation applied by hand or with a bait application gun. Bait gels. Active ingredient carried in the form of a toothpaste-like gel. Active ingredient is mixed with an attractant. Ready-to-use bait stations. Plastic bait stations with poison bait inside. Liquid under pressure aerosols. Active ingredient mixed with propellant, as in pressurized. Additional non-pesticide chemical formulations. Insect growth regulator, a material that interrupts an insect's life cycle and or reproductive ability. Pheromone, natural or synthetic substance that can mimic an insect's ability to attract a mate, send out alarm signals, or mark food trails. These are used in monitors and baits. Synergist, a material added to an active ingredient to enhance its effectiveness. Modes of action. Contact poison, kills on contact or repeated exposure. Stomach poison, must be ingested to be effective. Inhalant, must be breathed in to be effective. Desiccant, dehydrates and breaks down wax coating of insects' exoskeleton. Repellent, repels or scatters, used primarily as an inspection tool. Chemical families. Botanicals. These pesticides come from plants. Most have a short-term residual life and are more repellent than deadly. Pyrethrum is one of the more popular botanicals used in the structural pest control industry. It is derived from pyrethrum flower and is used primarily to flush insects out of hiding places. Because of its short residual life, it is often used for fogging applicators. Other botanicals include nicotine, limonene, and linalool. Synthetic pyrethroids. As the name implies, these are man-made pyrethrums. They also have short residual life, but in some cases are not as repellent. Some of the present generation synthetic pyrethroids have proven to be effective for general pest and termite treatments and are used widely. Examples are bifenthrin and cyfluthrin. Neonicotinoids. Neonicotinoids, a synthetic nicotine, are also a man-made botanical pesticide. These recent developments in pesticides include imidacloprid and acetamiprid and are used both general pest applications and for termite control. Chlorinated hydrocarbons. This class of pesticide, which was used in the 1940s and 50s, was very effective and provided a long residual life. Their long residual lives ultimately lead to their suspension. Examples are chlordane, DDT, and dieldrin. Organophosphates. Organophosphates replace chlorinated hydrocarbons in the late
Inorganic
1960s.
pesticides.
While some still exist for structural applicators,
found in nature,
most
except
are
those
labeled for
containing carbons.
agricultural uses only.
Boric acid and silica
Some
gel
examples are
examples of this
dirsban,
family.
melathion,
Carbamates, similar to
diazepam.
the organophosphates mode of action in agricultural use. This family of pesticide is rarely used in structural applications. Two of the more popular are bendiocarboncarol. Anticoagulants. Anticoagulants are used for rodent control. They are blood thinners and cause internal hemorrhaging. The active ingredient is impregnated in various bait forms and is used as a population suppressant. The older baits, or first-generation anticoagulant rodenticides, such as diaphysonum and werfin, needed multiple feedings to be effective. The newer baits, or second-generation anticoagulant rodenticides, such as brodifacoum and maquis, are single-feeding anticoagulants. SGAR's exterior bait placements are restricted to within 50 of a man-made structure. Read the label. Baits must be placed in a properly labeled, tamper-proof bait station that are inaccessible to children, pets, and non-target animals. Pesticide storage. Category 1 and Category 2 pesticides must be kept in a locked storage area with signs posted on each side of approach that read, "Danger, pesticide storage area, keep out." These signs should be posted on each side of approach to the storage area and be readable from 25 feet. Storage area should be ventilated, kept cool and dry. All chemicals shall be properly labeled. Chemical rooms shall be kept clean and uncluttered. Never store any safety equipment or foodstuffs in a pesticide storage area. Chemical storage areas should be locked when unattended. Disposal of empty containers. Empty pesticide containers must be rinsed before disposal. Empty containers smaller than 5 gallons are to be filled 1/4 of the way with water, capped and shaken with the rinse aid emptied into an application equipment. This should be done at least 3 times or until rinse aid is clear. The rinse container should be punctured and rendered unusable before disposal. To properly dispose of an empty aerosol can, they must be wrapped in newspaper prior to being disposed of. Some counties may have different rules on container disposal. Check with your local agricultural commissioner. Rates of toxicity. Toxicity can be viewed in 2 distinct categories, acute and chronic. The effects of acute poisoning are immediate, while chronic poisoning happens over a period of time. Toxicity rates will also differ because of routes of entry, i.e. dermal ingestion, inhalation, or ocular. The acute oral or dermal toxicity of pesticides are measured by using the formula LD-50. LD-50 represents the lethal dose of a given pesticide, which kills 50% of a test population of lab animals. The total weight of the test population also figures in the equation. LD-50 is expressed in milligrams of active ingredient per kilogram of body weight that will kill 50% of an animal test population. Class Category 1 LD-50 Oral 1 to 50 milligrams per kilogram. Dermal 0 to 200 milligrams per kilogram. Signal word danger. Class Category 2 LD-50 Oral 51 to 500 milligrams per kilogram. Dermal 201 to 2000 milligrams per kilogram. Signal word warning. Class Category 3 LD-50 Oral 501 to 5000 milligrams per kilogram. Dermal 2001 and over milligrams per kilogram. Signal word caution. Lethal amounts of pesticides in air and water are measured by using the formula LC-50. LC-50 represents lethal concentration of a given pesticide, which will kill 50% of a test population of lab animals. Methods of application. Crack and crevice. Apply pesticides to cracks and crevices at low pressure. Spot treatment. Apply pesticides to an area measuring 2 square feet or less. Space treatment. Treating interior rooms with a fogging device. Exterior band treatment. Treating exterior walls or yards at a label restricted with see label. Application equipment. Application equipment is how pesticides are delivered to target areas. Pesticides must be applied at label rates to label approved sites using appropriate and well-maintained application equipment. Power sprayer systems. The tank holds the chemical. Can be made of metal or plastic. Shut-off valve between tank and pump used when working on pump. Surge tank reduces pulsing by absorbing pulse vibration. Pressure regulator regulates the pressure, also used when calibrating. Pressure gauge displays pressure reading. Pressure release valve releases or restores pressure. Agitation used to keep chemicals suspended and mix. Especially important with wettable powders. Can be mechanically or hydraulic agitation. Inline strainer keeps debris from entering the pump. Spray hose and reel takes pesticides from hose reel to gun. Anti-siphon device provides air gap between top of tank and water filler hose. Source of power can be electric or gas engine. Power sprayers are used to apply water-based pesticide products to large areas. When spraying pesticides, care should be taken to prevent drift of pesticides to non-target areas. This can be done by treating at low pressure, which will increase the droplet size, making it heavier and less susceptible to drift. Power sprayers should never be used indoors. Hand compressed air sprayer. Hand compressed air sprayers are used to apply liquid-based pesticides in areas that are smaller and more confined. They provide for a means of exact placement, such as crack and crevice or spot treatments. Spray equipment guidelines. Sprayers need to be pressurized prior to the start of each workday for the purpose of testing for leaks. Leaks to any part of a sprayer system must be repaired immediately. Anti-siphon measurers and air gap devices must be used when filling sprayers. The higher the pressure, the smaller the droplets, which provides a greater possibility for drift. Applicators should not do granular or liquid treatments when they cannot control the drift of pesticides to non-target areas. Weather conditions such as rain or high winds can cause pesticides drift. Applicators must be aware of and avoid any possible water supply contamination, i.e. ponds, streams, wells, etc. Pressure must be released in sprayer when stored or not in use. No chemical should be left in a spraying system overnight. Mix only the amount you intend to use for each job. All application equipment must have an attached service container label. Follow label instruction for rates of application and for rate settings and patterns. Treating pervasive surfaces, sidewalks, driveways, etc., will increase the possibility of pesticide runoff and is prohibited by some pesticide labels. Spreaders or granular applicators. Granular applicators can be handheld or designed as a belly pack and are used to apply pesticide granules. These application devices have an output measuring device, and some models also can adjust spreader patterns. See label. These applicators are for exterior use only. Excess material left on hardscape surfaces, i.e. sidewalks, driveways, etc., must be swept up. Power and hand-operated dusters. Dust applications in the structural pest control industry are done with hand-operated or handheld power equipment. Most dust formula pesticide labels limit dust applications into wall voids and other areas inaccessible to human or pet contact. They also prohibit application where there is a possibility of dust migration to non-target areas. These requirements hamper the use of electric dusters that put out a large volume of dust in a short period. Follow label instructions for label rates and restrictions. Because of the possibility of migration into living areas, dust must be used with extra caution. They should only be used in areas where migration is not possible. Make sure dusting equipment is free of clogs and clotting before use. Some dusters may be used to apply certain types of granules. Follow label instructions. Foggers or space treating machines. Machines which convert liquid into vapor are called foggers or ULV space treating machines. These machines can produce a coarse fog up to micron-sized droplets. A micron or micrometer-sized droplet measures 1 out of 1 million of a meter. People and pets are not allowed to enter the treated areas until a specified re-entry period has elapsed. Certain preparation instructions regarding food, pet food, dishware, and food preparation services must be given to clients prior to treatments. In some cases, open flames in treatment areas need to be extinguished. Because application will be to the entire space, short or non-residual chemicals are used in fogging. Read the label. Pesticide application equipment standards. All application equipment must be kept clean. All application equipment must be maintained in good working order. Application equipment will have the proper service label attached. Application equipment shall be secured or under lock and key. Application equipment with leaks shall immediately be taken out of service and the leaks repaired before using. Personal protective equipment. Preliminary testing of pesticides set guidelines for PELs or permissible exposure levels. These guidelines set limits of pesticide exposure for each pesticide tested and establishes when a certain type of personal protective equipment is required. This then becomes part of the pesticide label instructions and must be followed exactly as written. Applicators must recognize these hazards and take appropriate action based on label instructions and common sense. There are 4 primary routes by which toxic chemicals can enter the bloodstream: the lungs, the stomach, skin, and through the eyes. Dermal exposure protection equipment, the skin. Protective clothing such as long sleeve shirts and long pants or coveralls. Unlined chemical resistant gloves of at least 14 mil thickness. Rubber of neoprene boots. Shoe covers or water resistant treated shoes. Washing face and hands after pesticide applications. Wash gloves and change protective clothing at least daily. Selection of gloves depend on assigned category and labeled instructions. Respiratory exposure protection equipment, the lungs. National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health approved full face respirator, which includes built-in eye protection with single or dual organic vapor cartridges. National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health approved half-face respirator with single or dual organic vapor cartridges. National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health approved highly efficient particulate air filters, also known as HEPA filters. National Institute for Occupational Health and Safety approved paper filtering face piece respirator. National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health approved self-contained breathing apparatus, or SCBA. Each company will have a respirator training program which shall be part of the applicator's initial safety training and repeated annually thereafter. Respirator training shall include how to choose a respirator, when to wear a respirator, how to fit test a respirator, and how to maintain, clean, and store a respirator. Ocular exposure protection equipment, the eyes. Safety glasses with brow and temple extensions, chemical resistant goggles, full face shield. Eyewear must be rated ANSI Z87.1. Wash daily. The 4th route of introducing toxic chemicals to the bloodstream is by way of the stomach. This requires no personal protective equipment other than using common sense. After applying pesticides, wash face and hands before eating or drinking. Never put pesticides in a container similar to food or drinking containers. Never store food products in the same room as pesticides. Pesticides must be kept in locked storage areas. Pesticides must be kept out of reach of children and pets. Applicators or repair personnel must wear required personal protective equipment during mixing and loading, application procedures, and when performing maintenance and or repair duties, even though the application equipment has been drained. Personal protective equipment responsibilities. Personal protective equipment is supplied by the employer. It is also the employer's responsibility to provide initial training and annual training thereafter covering the selection, use, cleaning, and maintaining of personal protective equipment. It is the employee's responsibility to use their personal protective equipment as trained and to keep his or her personal protective equipment clean, well maintained, and to report any replacement or maintenance needs to their immediate supervisor as soon as they occur. Basic entomology. Entomology comes from the Greek words entono, meaning cut into pieces or segmented, and logo, meaning knowledge. It is also worth noting that the Latin word for cut into pieces is insecta. Entomology is the scientific study of insects. Some definitions, although not technically correct, also include crustaceans, arachnids, and myriapods. Metamorphosis. The word metamorphosis means life change. And as it applies to most of the insects we deal with, it can be complete or incomplete. Insects such as ants and bees have a complete metamorphosis going from egg to larva to pupa to adult. Insects with an incomplete metamorphosis go from an egg to a series of instars in molting periods, which resemble smaller adults. The final instar stage in an incomplete metamorphosis results with the adult. Cockroaches and silverfish have an incomplete metamorphosis because different stages may be less susceptible to pesticide applications, have different food tastes, and nesting sites. It is important to know what type of metamorphosis the pest you are treating goes through. True insects such as ants, roaches, and bees have the following characteristics. 3 distinct body parts: the head, the thorax, and abdomen. 3 pairs of legs. Some larval stages are legless. 1 pair of antennae. Some species may have wings. They have compound eyes, meaning 2, or simple eyes, which is typically 3. Arachnids. Arachnids such as spiders, ticks, and mites have the following characteristics. Arachnids have 2 body parts comprised of an abdomen in one segment and the cephalothorax in the other. Some arachnids, such as mites, will have only one body segment. 4 pair of legs, however, some early nymph stages of mites and ticks have 6 legs. Arachnids do not have wings or antennae. Arachnids have multiple simple eyes. Myriapoda. Centipedes and millipedes. Worm-shaped body, no wings. Crustaceans. Soul bugs and pill bugs. 2 body parts, 5 or more pairs of legs, 1 pair of antennae, breathe through gills, need more moisture-related environments. Note, as we go through the biology of pest species, you will see some variable in facts such as 3 to 4 weeks, 40 to 120 days. These are due to varying food sources, fluctuating temperature, and humidity. Cockroaches. Cockroaches are one of the most common and toughest pests service technicians must control. IPM practices are important as cockroach population size is directly dependent on the availability of food, water, and harborage. Cockroaches are nocturnal, avoid light, and hide in tiny cracks, making infestations difficult to find. They have an incomplete metamorphosis, with several nymphal stages. The molting between these stages, or instars, results in what appears to be white cockroaches. This is due to the new unhardened wax coating that protects the exoskeleton, which darkens rapidly as air exposure hardens the new wax. This lack of pigment is common in most insects with an incomplete metamorphosis. Cockroaches are not social insects, but appear in groups near common food sources. There are 4 common species of cockroaches that invade structures in our region, and they are the German roach, most prolific, easiest to distribute, they're great climbers. Brown banded roach, spreads throughout interior, smaller colonies. Oriental roaches, found mostly outside, related to moisture. American roaches, mostly outside in sewers and drains. German cockroach, tan in color with 2 distinctive dark stripes on their head, cover or pronotum, approximately 1/2 to 5/8 inches in length, thrive in hot, humid environments. Female carries egg capsule, ootheca, until 2 or 3 days before the eggs are ready to hatch. This is the only roach that does this. Egg capsules hold approximately 20 to 50 eggs. Egg to adult, 100 days. 5 to 6 instars, incomplete metamorphosis. Adult stage has wings but does not fly. Lifespan 1 year. Usually found near water and heat, i.e. kitchens and bathrooms. Most common roach found in restaurants and food processing plants. Easily transported in food containers, furniture, and used equipment. Does not tolerate cold, primarily an indoor pest. Brown band cockroach, tan to dark brown with 2 distinct light bands running across body, approximately 1/2 inch in length. Prefer warm, dry environments. Female carries egg capsule approximately 2 days before attaching it to a protected surface. Egg capsule contains approximately 14 to 16 eggs. Egg to adult approximately 100 days. Adult stage has wings and does fly. Lifespan 150 to 200 days. Does not need as much moisture as other roaches, therefore found throughout interior. Found in residences, apartments, hotels, and hospitals. Easily transported in furniture, appliances, televisions, and stereos. Similar to German roaches, brown banded are generally found indoors. Oriental cockroach, approximately 1 to 1 and 1/4 of an inch long. Breed in damp, warm areas such as mulch pits, storm drains, and ivy. Female carries egg capsule 30 hours, then drops or attaches it to a protected surface. Egg capsules contain approximately 14 to 16 eggs. Egg to adult approximately 1 year. Adult stage has wings. Male wings cover 3/4 of abdomen, and female has wing pads only, does not fly. Lifespan 1.5 years. Usually enters structures at floor levels, such as under doors, basements, and drains. Has poor vertical crawling abilities, primarily an outdoor roach. American roach, reddish brown in color, approximately 1 and 1/2 inches long, prefers hot, moist environments. Female drops or glues egg capsule in a protected area approximately 1 day after formation. Egg capsule contains approximately 16 eggs. Egg to adult takes 1 to 2 years. Adult males and females have fully developed wings and fly. Lifespan 3 years. Similar to Oriental roach, the American is a poor climber and usually enters structures at ground level, such as door bottoms and basements. Ants. The most common pests that service technicians face are ants. Ants have the ability to contaminate food, bite, and sting, and just to be a plain nuisance.
Ants are true insects with a complete metamorphosis. Similar to termites and bees, ants are social insects with colonies made up of queens, infertile female workers, soldiers, and drones. Workers can be tunnel builders, foragers, or nursery maids, depending on the colony's needs. Male ants or drones have one purpose in the colony, and that is to impregnate the queen. In the following descriptions regarding size, some ant species are listed with variable lengths, such as 1/16 of an inch to 1/5 of an inch. These are polymorphic species where colony members vary in size depending on their job description. For instance, a soldier will be larger than a nursery worker, who will be smaller than a forager, etc. Monomorphic refers to a colony where workers are all the same size. In all species, the colony's queen is the largest member. Some species have multiple queens, which enable them to produce larger colonies. Others have a single queen, which smaller colonies and shorter colony lifespan. One of the first steps in identifying an ant species is to determine whether they are a single node or two-node ant. To do this, locate the petiole, which is the waist area connecting the thorax and the abdomen. On top of the petiole, there will be either one or two nodes or bumps. The descriptions in most literature devoted to identification of ant species will be split between one and two node ants. The node's length, body, coloration, and nesting sites are all important ingredients in the identification process. Locating nesting sites is essential in gaining control of ants. By identifying the type of ant and its harborage sites, a workable plan of attack can be launched against these formidable adversaries. Single node ants. Argentine ant, 1/8 of an inch long, monomorphic, dull brown in color, single node, feed on sweets and proteins, nest outdoors in soil, under stones, around root systems, does not bite or sting, have multiple queens, and can have colonies numbering in the millions. When introduced into new areas, they drive out native species because of their ability to increase colony population rapidly. Tins or farm aphids and scale for their honeydew. Carpenter ant, 1/4 to 1/2 inch long, polymorphic. Most are all black. A few species are red or bicolor, red and black. Single node, feeds on sweets and dead insects. Nest or exterior or interior. Tree stumps, firewood, hollow doors, window frames, or other voids and structures. Can bite, has single or multiple queen colonies, unable to digest wood but will bore into it to provide a nesting site, leaves sawdust-like evidence below or near harborage, distinctive circle of hairs around abdomen. Odorous house ant, 1/8 of an inch long. They are monomorphic, dark brown to shiny black, one node, hidden under abdomen, feeds on sweets and insects, nest outdoors in soilage and debris. If they do enter homes, found mostly inside walls, wall voids, and near space or hot water heaters. Neither bites nor stings, have multiple queens with large colonies up to 10,000 workers, tends aphids and scale for their honeydew. Very strong odor when crushed. Velvety tree ant, 1/8 to 1/4 inch long, polymorphic, black head, red thorax, and a velvety black abdomen, single node, feeds on sweets, honeydew, which is sometimes produced by aphids and scale. Nest in dead limbs, stumps, or logs. Rarely invade structures. Can bite. Single queen colonies. Has a very distinct odor when crushed. Occasional structure invader, usually connected to water sources such as plumbing leaks. Crazy ant. 1/8 of an inch long. Blackish brown in color, very long legs. Monomorphic, single node. Feeds on protein in summer and sweets in fall and spring. Can nest far away from its foraging area, mainly outside in soil or under debris. Neither bites nor stings. Have multiple queens. When disturbed, runs around erratically, which is how it's got its name. 2-node ants. 3/16 of an inch long. Monomorphic. Dark brown to black with pale legs. 2-node ant. Feeds on sweets, insects, protein, and grease. Nest in soil under rocks, wood, or boards next to concrete slabs and driveways. Does not sting or bite. Usually has a queen. Colonies adjacent to one another will often fight, creating turf or pavement wars. Feral ant. 1/16 of an inch long. Yellow to honey-colored orange. Have 2 nodes. Feeds on insects, sweets, fats, and protein. Nests in cracks and crevices and in cabinet or wall voids. Does not bite or sting. Multiple queens with colonies as large as 300,000. Feral ants can move a portion of the colony, eggs, larvae, and pupa to a new location if disturbed, or if the colony's population gets too large. This action is called budding. Repellent pesticides are not recommended for this ant. Red imported fire ant. 1/16 to 1/4 of an inch long. Polymorphic, reddish with a dark brown abdomen. Have 2 nodes. Have round or oval shaped heads and thorax. Feeds on live insects, dead animals, and honeydew. Fire ants nest outside in mounds with multiple openings. Although they rarely nest in the wall voids of structures. Bites and stings repeatedly. Nests have multiple queens with colonies as large as 500,000. Important to notify agricultural department if you find a suspected nest. Southern fire ant. 1/8 to 1/4 inches long. Polymorphic, amber head and thorax with a black abdomen. Have round or oval head and thorax. Feeds on insects, sweet foods, seeds, protein, almonds, and honeydew. Usually nest outdoors in small flattened mounds and occasionally indoors in wall voids, basements, and under carpets. Bites and stings repeatedly. Have multiple queens with colonies as large as 10,000. If you're not sure what species of fire ant you're dealing with, you should take specimen to agricultural department for a positive ID. Thief ant. 1/32 of an inch long. Monomorphic, yellow to light brown. 2-node ant. Primarily feeds on grease and greasy foods, but will also feed on protein, dead insects, and sweets. Nest in wall and cabinet voids and baseboards. Does not bite or sting. Small colonies that have several queens. Called a thief ant because it steals food from other ants' nests. Bees and wasps. Bees and wasps are considered both beneficial and dangerous insects when interacting with man. The primary commercial use for the western honeybee is to pollinate food plants in agricultural areas and produce honey. Wasps are also considered beneficial insects because they attack and destroy plant-damaging insects and nuisance flies, and play a role in the plant pollination process. It is when bees and wasps nest in or near human activity areas that certain species become dangerous pests. This is due to their painful sting, which in some individuals can cause severe allergic reaction. Allergic reaction, if not treated immediately, could be life-threatening. Western honeybee. The western honeybee is a social insect with members of the hive having specific duties, such as caring for the queen, nursing the young, and providing protection for the hive. Approximately half an inch long, the larger queen is approximately 3/4 of an inch long, black stripes on the abdomen with alternating colors of gold or gray. Nest in dark, dry, protected areas such as tree hollows, in between floors and walls in structure voids. Females have a barbed stinger that usually pulls away from the bee after stinging. Therefore, it only stings once, which results in death by disembowelment. The western honeybees have large hives with 40 to 80,000 workers and one fertilized queen. When the hive gets too large or food sources start to diminish, workers designate non-fertile females as future queens, and she takes a portion of the workers and drones and swarm, forming a new colony. Western honeybees feed on pollen and nectar. They go through a complete metamorphosis. Africanized honeybee. Identical to western honeybees, only reliable identification by way of DNA testing, exhibit very aggressive behavior if disturbed, will follow intruder much farther than western honeybee. These bees tend to nest closer to ground level than western honeybees. Local agricultural inspector must be notified and given a sample whenever possible of suspected Africanized honeybees. Bumblebees. Bumblebees are also social insects. They have a complete metamorphosis. They are approximately 3/4 of an inch long. They are yellow and black, much fuzzier than honeybees. They usually nest in old squirrel or gopher holes. May also nest in protected structure voids. Females have smooth stingers, can sting repeatedly, but not known to be aggressive unless disturbed. Have small hives, up to 50 members. Bumblebees feed on pollen and nectar. Carpenter bee. Approximately 3/4 of an inch long, entirely black or may have yellow thorax or shoulders. Gaster or abdomen is a smooth, shiny black. Usually located in eaves of structures or in fences or arbors. In soft wood, usually redwood or cedar. Queen mates and bores into wood about 1/2 an inch to an inch and makes a right angle turn. After the right angle turn, she can bore a tunnel up to 12 inches long. She will then lay an egg, deposit food, and seal individual cells along tunnel. Larvae will pupate in cells over winter, and adults will emerge in the spring. Holes are perfect circles approximately 1/2 an inch in diameter. Carpenter bees are solitary insects. There are no workers or soldier castes in these colonies. Yellow jackets, wasp. Yellow jackets goes through a complete metamorphosis, approximately 1/2 of an inch long. Yellow jackets are social insects. They are yellow and black, and unlike bees, are shiny with no hairs. They usually nest at ground level in old squirrel or gopher holes, although they can be also found nesting in palm trees and in upper locations in structures. Aggressive nest protectors. Their stingers have no barbs, which enables them to sting repeatedly. Hive sizes start small in the spring and can grow to over 15,000 strong in late summer. Feeds on insects and switches to sweets in late summer. Paper wasps. Paper wasps are social insects. They are 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch in length with distinctive waist. They are black and yellow in color, shiny and smooth. They build umbrella-shaped paper-like nests with a cluster of 6-sided egg cells that they usually attach under roof eaves, in attic spaces, or garage ceiling beams. Nests can be as small as 20 egg cells and as large as 100. Larva feeds on insect parts. Adults feed on insects and sweets in late summer. They have smooth stingers but are not known to be aggressive unless disturbed. Mud dauber. They are 1/2 inch to 1 inch in length, goes through a complete metamorphosis. The body is primarily black with yellow markings on legs and has a distinctive waist. Mud daubers, unlike the social wasps previously discussed, are a solitary insect. The queen builds egg chambers of mud and attaches them under eaves, in attics and similar protected areas. She goes foraging for spiders, which she stings, paralyzes, and puts into each chamber for the later emerging larva to feed on. Her last task is to lay an egg in each of the cells and seal them. The task is indeed her last task, as she flies off and dies soon after. It is important to remember that although some species of stinging insects are more aggressive than others, all can sting and should be approached with caution. Use protective clothing consisting of gloves, coveralls, and head protection. Stored food product pests. Stored food product pests are those that infest grain products, dried plants, nuts, and processed foods containing those items. They fall into 3 categories: internal feeders, external feeders, and scavengers. The stored food pests we will cover are found in 2 types of insects: moths and beetles. All of them go through a complete metamorphosis, with the larval stage usually doing the most damage. The first indication of an infestation, however, is usually the appearance of adult stages on windows and around doorways. Controlling stored food product pests is primarily a source problem. Once the source is found and eliminated, cleaning limited pesticide applications and monitoring potential and previously infected areas is the best way to prevent reoccurrences. Internal feeders. The evidence found pointing to an infestation of internal feeders are small holes in an empty whole kernel of grain that an adult insect or moth has made when emerging. These pests are more of a major problem in the grain storage areas than to homes. Anguma grain moth, approximately 1/3 of an inch long, buff to yellowish brown in color, finger-like appendage protruding from hind pair of wing tips, feed on whole kernel corn, seeds, and decorations made from whole kernel products. Adult glues eggs on kernels. Larva bores inside, eats kernel interior, pupates, and new adult emerges. Rice and granary weevils. Approximately 1/8 of an inch long, distinctive long snout or proboscis, which is used in the kernel boring process. The rice weevil is brown with 4 faint yellow spots on its wing covers. Granary weevil is uniformly brown in color. Weevils feed on whole corn, peas, beans, and seeds. They can sometimes be found in macaroni and other types of pasta or processed food.
The adult drills into a host kernel and deposits a single egg. The larva lives in and eats the interior of kernel, then pupates and emerges as an adult. Rice weevil flies, granary weevils does not. External feeders. External stored food product pests, as the name implies, feed on the exterior of products. This usually occurs in the spring and fall. They are far more diverse in their appetites than internal feeders and are frequently found in households. Cigarette beetles, reddish brown in color, approximately 1/10 of an inch long, oval in shape, smooth wing covering, head tucked down and under, barely visible from above, feeds on dried plant products such as tobacco, grains, and spices. Drugstore beetles, approximately 1/10 of an inch, slightly larger than a cigarette beetle, not quite as round, reddish brown in color with grooves running from front to back on wings. They feed on dried plants and dried plant products, including grains, spices, nuts, and dried plant arrangements. They also have been known to feed on pyrethrum powder and plant-based drugs, hence the name. Indian meal moth, approximately 3/8 of an inch long. When the wings are folded, the first half appear to be gray and the tips appear to be reddish brown or bronze colored. The head and thorax are reddish brown. Originally a major pest of dried fruits, also infests grain pastas, nuts, and grain products. Contaminates foods with its webbings and tends to hang its pupa from kitchen ceilings. Characteristically, flies at night in a zigzag pattern. Scavengers. They are called scavengers because of their inability to penetrate whole or undamaged grain kernels. They exist off of spillage or food particles left or damaged by other stored food product pests. Sawtooth grain beetle, approximately 1/8 of an inch long and very flat, making it hard to detect. Brown in color with 6 distinctive saw teeth on each side of the thorax. Feeds on such items as flour, meal, sugar, drugs, dried fruit, and chocolate. Easily penetrates poorly packaged materials and can go undetected for long periods of time. Red and confused flower beetle. The red flower beetle's antenna club grows abruptly, ending in 3 large segments. The confused flower beetle club segments increase gradually, ending in 4 segments. The sides of the red flower beetle's thorax are curved. The confused flower beetle sides are straighter. Otherwise, they look very familiar. Approximately 1/8 of an inch long and flat, both reddish brown in color. The red flower beetle flies, while the confused flower beetle doesn't. These beetles feed on grains, plants, dried plants, flour, chocolate, nuts, and seeds. Mediterranean flower moth, approximately 3/16 of an inch long, with wings closed, a molted pale gray with 2 crossing zigzag lines. When at rest, raises its head and tail in a distinctive curve. They feed on flour, dried fruit, nuts, chocolate, and spices. What to look for and questions to ask customers when inspecting for stored food product pests. Does the customer keep products, especially those containing grain products, for long periods of time? Does the customer rotate products, storing the older ones in the back of those recently bought? Has the dog food stored in the garage unexpectedly disappeared? Have you found any insects? If possible, identify culprit before inspecting. Look for spillage, webbing, or silk-like threads. Look for teeny holes on the outside of packages and bags, whether they have been opened or not. Do not overlook glass counters or glass containers. Look under lids and in contents. Look for evidence under the flaps and in folds of packaging. Read package ingredients to ensure they do not contain grain products. Don't assume that they couldn't. Inspect cabinets, ceiling, baseboards behind appliances in adjacent rooms. Bottoms of vases holding dried flower arrangements. Also check these cool window box picture frames with pasta, whole peas, beans, and corn in them. And of course, the ever popular windowsill. After locating the infested food, put items in a plastic bag. Seal bags and put them into garbage cans immediately. Vacuum cracks and crevices thoroughly and clean and disinfect affected areas. Application of an appropriate pesticide to cracks and crevices may be necessary. Finally, monitor with pheromone traps to detect any reinfestations. Fabric pests. Fabric pests attack and live off of furs, feathers, and natural fibers such as linen, silk, cottons, and wools. Since the introduction of synthetic fabrics, fabric pests have become much less of a pest control problem than in the past. Fabric pests, similar to stored food pests, are a source problem. If all infested material, the source, is not located, treated, or removed, the problem will persist. Fabric pests are typically either a beetle or a moth and have a complete metamorphosis, with the larval stage doing the most damage. Locating and eliminating the source. Thoroughly cleaning and vacuuming the infested area and applying appropriate pesticides will effectively control these pests. Using pheromone traps to detect future infestation in the last step. Clothes moths. The different characteristics that distinguish fabric pest moths from stored food product moths are important to know. As the adult stages are clothes in appearance relative to their size, coloration, and areas found, food pest moths are somewhat larger, approximately half of an inch long, as opposed to the fabric moths, which are approximately a fourth of an inch long. Clothes moths rarely fly to lights, and generally both the larva and the adult prefer dark, secluded areas. Webbing clothes moths. The common clothes moth. Buff wings, gold body, reddish tuft on head, approximately 1/4 of an inch long, with a wingspan of half of an inch. Larval stage spins web on fabric it attacks for protection. Feeds on wool, feathers, fur, hair, leather, and lint. Occasionally feed on other natural fibers. Prefers material that has been stained with perspiration or urine. Clothing, underarms, seams, pleats, or waistband will usually be damaged first. Case making moth. Body approximately 1/4 of an inch long, wingspan half of an inch. Brown with dark spots on wings. Larval stage spins cigar-shaped protective case which it lives and carries with it until it pupates. Feeding habits, same as the webbing clothes moth, which are noted above. Carpet beetles. Carpet beetle larvae feed on wool, silk, leather, furs, and occasionally dead plant products such as certain spices and grains. The adult stages feed on pollen and nectar. Outdoors, adult carpet beetles will lay their eggs in abandoned wasps, bee, or bird's nests. These nests provide beeswax, dead insects, feathers, pollen, and other debris that can serve as larval food. If nests are closed or attached to a structure, they may eventually migrate to the interior. Evidence of a carpet beetle infestation are large damaged areas, opposed to the scattered holes usually left behind by clothes moths. Carpet beetles leave cast larvae skins near or on damaged site, and there is no webbing present. Furniture carpet beetle. Adult is 1/16 of an inch long, rounder than the others. Larva 1/8 of an inch long. Adult is molted yellow, white, and black. Larva is chestnut brown and tapered towards the rear, ending in a tuft of hairs. Varied carpet beetles. Adult is 1/16 of an inch long, oval shape. Larva 1/8 of an inch. Adult has a black head with alternating yellow, white, and dark brown scales on its wings cover. The larva has dark stripes and is very bristly and broadens in width toward the rear, ending in a tuft of hairs. Black carpet beetle. Adults 1/8 of an inch long, oval shaped. Larva 1/4 of an inch long. Adult has an all black body with brown legs. With larva is brown to black, also has bristles, and is tapered toward the rear, ending in a tuft of hairs. What to look for and what questions to ask customers when inspecting for fabric pests. Do you have any natural fabric carpets in your house? Do you have any natural fabric curtains or wall hangings? Do you have any feather down pillows, mattresses, or comforters? Have you had any bees, wasps, or birds' nests in or near the house? Where do you store old clothes, blankets, and other fabrics? Do you have any old yarns or knitted goods stored somewhere? Have the clothes in the storage been cleaned before they were put away? Have you found any bugs? If possible, identify the pest before inspecting. Thoroughly inspect closets and other storage areas. Inspect all cabinets, baseboards, window, and door framing. Look at and in the vases of dried flower arrangements. Inspect animal specimens such as deer heads or horns. After the source is found, remove it from the premises. Whenever possible, and in cases of heavy damage, get rid of the source. If it is salvageable, curtains or clothing, remove them and have them cleaned. If it is carpeting, remove and treat both sides before reinstalling. With the source removed, thoroughly vacuum and clean the surrounding areas and treat with pesticide as per label instruction. After treatment, monitor areas with pheromone traps to detect any reinfestation. Ectoparasites. Ectoparasites are a group of insects and arachnids that rely upon the blood of mammals or birds to exist. Because ectoparasites feed on blood, the transmission of disease poses a real threat. Even though most ectoparasites have a primary host other than man, under the right or wrong circumstances, they can become a problem pest. The preceding fabric and stored food product pest chapters discuss the need to eliminate sources as a controlled method. In some respects, the host of ectoparasites can be regarded as a source and need to be eliminated or treated. Also, the need to create an environment that will not promote ectoparasite infestation is necessary. Cat fleas. Most common flea affecting dogs, cats, and therefore humans. Adult is 1/8 of an inch long, oval shape. Larva 1/4 of an inch long. The cat flea is a true insect and goes through a complete metamorphosis. Adults are dark brown, and when viewed from front to back, the flattened side to side, this characteristic enables them to move through the fur of their host. Their back legs are very long, a feature that gives them their jumping ability. The larva resembles a tiny white worm. The adult must have a blood meal to generate eggs. This usually happens when the host is at rest. The egg, being smooth and round, do not stick to the host and usually fall off near the host's resting areas. The larva is light sensitive and lives in dark cracks and crevices near their host's resting places. They feed on insect parts, hair, lint, and blood found in the fecal matter of adult fleas. After 3 larval stages, the larva spins a cocoon and pupates. If weather conditions are too cool or there is no host present, the pupa will remain in its protective case for months, possibly up to a year. Adult emergence from the pupa case will be triggered by the detection of carbon dioxide vibrations or warmth, which sometimes occurs in the form of human beings returning home from vacation. Controlling fleas involves a thorough vacuum of infested living spaces, appropriate pesticide treatment of floor surfaces in yards, and washing or discarding pet bedding. Advise pet owners to ask their veterinarian about treating their pet and about preventative measures to stop fleas from reoccurring in the future. Lice. There are 3 types of lice that are considered ectoparasites of man. They are head lice, body lice, and crab or pubic lice. Because they spend their lives on their host or their host's clothing, they are not something a pest control technician would treat for. Instead, prescribed medicated shampoos and lotions, which are applied directly to the host, and cleaning and washing infested clothing and bedding are the proper means of control. Lice are so small, they usually cause itching and irritation long before they are actually seen. Head and body lice. Head lice eggs, referred to as nits, are glued to hair follicles and are usually found near the ears and at the back of the head. Body lice spend most of their time in the folds of the host's clothing and attach their eggs to the clothes. Body lice can survive without body heat for about 2 weeks. Head lice rely upon body warmth and cannot be away from their host for more than 24 hours. 1/10 of an inch long, very small, wingless. Lice go through an incomplete or simple metamorphosis, egg, nymph, and adult. They are grayish in color and darken after a blood meal. More infestations occur with school children than adults. Nymphs, who resemble smaller adults, go through 3 stages and need a blood meal before each stage. Bed bugs. They are nocturnal feeder, once thought to be almost extinct in highly developed countries. However, recently we have seen a resurgence of bed bug infestations. This could be because today we have a more mobile world population. This, coupled with a decrease in use of residual pesticide sprays in favor of bait gels, which bed bugs cannot eat, are thought to be the cause. Initial bed bug bites are seldom felt when they occur, and it may be quite some time before the host is aware of an infestation. The first indication may be blood spots on bedclothes. While they have been suspected to be a vector of disease, links to bed bug transmission diseases have yet to be documented. Because they are flat and can fit into a crack as thick as a credit card, they are very difficult pests to locate and get rid of. Bed bugs are flattened ovals, reddish in color, and wingless. Bed bugs are 3/16 of an inch long. They have incomplete metamorphosis with 5 molting stages. They need a blood meal between each stage. They can survive without a blood meal for approximately 1 year. Large infestations give off a distinct odor. Bed bugs can travel up to 100 feet but are usually found in close proximity to their hosts. They only bite when the host is inactive, which is usually when in bed and asleep. Prime feeding time for bed bugs is 1 hour before dawn. They are not social insects, but similar to roaches, they are usually found in groups near a food source. A positive identification and thorough inspection should be made of the infestation and adjoining areas of the structure before any treatment strategy is planned. Remove bolted or screwed on bedboards, shelves, and pictures from walls. Thoroughly examine mattresses, box springs, and bed frames. When heavy infestations are encountered, it is best to dispose of the infested mattresses and box springs. Inspect sofas, couches, and all padded furniture. Empty and inspect dressers, nightstands, and toy boxes. Empty and inspect closet contents. Perform a thorough crack and crevice treatment of infested areas. Treat adjoining walls, floors, or ceilings of infested rooms to prevent possible migration into infested areas. Launder all clothes, linens, drapes, and washable items in strong detergent or hot water. Fumigation and thermal heat are also available for bed bug treatments. Mosquitoes. They are approximately 3/16 of an inch to 1/2 of an inch long, vary in color but usually grayish tan, go through a complete metamorphosis with the larva and pupa living in water. They are nocturnal feeders, most active at sunset and just before dawn. They are an ectoparasite and need a blood meal to generate eggs.
They are known to transmit diseases such as malaria, encephalitis, and West Nile fever. Eliminating standing water in yards and having tight fitting screen doors and windows that are ways of preventing infestations. Because the breeding areas may be far from a person's property, controlling the problem is best handled through local health agencies. Ticks. Ticks are not true insects. They are arachnids and evolve through an incomplete metamorphosis. They go from egg to larva to nymph to adults. The larva stage, which resembles a very small nymph, has 6 legs, while the nymph and adult ticks have 8. They have a barbed-piercing mouth part, and once the tick starts feeding, this feature makes it difficult to remove from the host. In order to prevent pulling the body away from the head, this should be done slowly and carefully using tweezers. Leaving the head embedded in the skin could cause an infection. Ticks are rarely found indoors. They are found for the most part outside around game trails, dog runs, and kennels. The adult ticks attach themselves to a tree branch, brush, and or suitable ambush spot and wait for a host to happen by. Because they do not climb well, the larva and nymphal stages usually live closer to the ground level in organic debris. Certain species of ticks are well-known transmitters of disease in pets and humans. Brown dog tick. Extremely small, less than 1/8 of an inch long. Adults can grow to 1/3 of an inch when fully engorged with a blood meal. The brown dog tick is, you guessed it, brown. Its most common hosts are dogs, which is why they are most likely to be found in and around structure and rarely bite humans. Transmits diseases in dogs, but not in men. Does not transmit Lyme disease. American dog tick. Approximately 1/8 of an inch. Engorged adult may expand to 1/3 of an inch. Brown in color with white, small spots or streaks on its back. American dog ticks have a variety of hosts, including, of course, dogs. They rarely are found in homes, but will bite humans. They are known to transmit Rocky Mountain fever and tularemia. Western black-leg tick. Adult female approximately 1/8 of an inch long, engorged to the size of a pea. The western black-leg tick is reddish in color. Male is smaller and dark gray. They are rarely found around structure but will bite humans. Host includes lizards, small mammals, and birds. They are primarily transmitter of Lyme disease in California. Flies. Flies have 1 pair of wings and belong to the order Diptera. Diptera comes from the Greek word di, meaning 2, and ptera, meaning wings. Most other flying insects have 2 pair of wings. Flies are true insects and have a complete metamorphosis. They feed on dead carcasses, rotting vegetation, and fecal matter, which may contain bacteria or viruses. Because of their feeding habits, flies are considered major disease carriers. The discovery and elimination of larva feeding sites is a key element in controlling fly infestations. In order to find these breeding sites, we need to make a positive identification, followed by a thorough inspection. The inspection should include checking windows, doors, the proper screening, and should be done early in the morning when flies are still near their breeding places. Other members of the order Diptera include mosquitoes and gnats. If you are not positive of what type of fly you are dealing with, save yourself some time and have an expert identify it. Bottle or blow flies. They are 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 of an inch long and have a robust shape. They are a distinctive metallic color, which could be blue, green, gold, or black. Maggots, larvae, feed off of decaying vegetation and dead animals. Adult feeds primarily on plant sap, flower, nectar, and other sugars.
Breeding sites are usually in the garbage and dead animal carcasses. Follow your nose. Because of a warning agent in natural gases that emits an odor similar to that of a dead animal, they can also be associated with gas leaks. Housefly. They are 3/8 of an inch long. They are grayish and have 4 vertical stripes on their thorax, their shoulders. They feed primarily off decaying vegetation and fecal matter. Common breeding areas are in garbage, mulch, fallen fruit, and animal dung. Houseflies can travel 1 to 2 miles from their larva site. Little housefly. They are 1/4 of an inch long, about 2/3 as large as a housefly. They are grayish, similar in color to the housefly, but without vertical stripes on the thorax. Hovering male flies found in protected exterior and interior areas indicate a breeding place for the small housefly is nearby. Tend to breed around and in animal waste. It is not uncommon to find them directly related to a pigeon problem. Fruit, pomace, or vinegar flies. Adults are approximately 1/8 of an inch long, brown in color with prominent red eyes. Feeds and breeds on overripe fruits and fermenting organic matter with consistent high moisture content. Eliminating sources of fermenting organic matter and excessive moisture conditions are the key to a successful control. Moth or drain flies. Little less than 1/2 of an inch in length and covered with tiny hairs. Grayish brown in color. The adult at rest holds wings in tent-like pose. Feed on decomposed organic matter. The larva and pupa can live in drains where they feed off of gelatinous film of decomposing organic matter. Breeding places are often in dirty and or leaking drain systems in commercial kitchens. To determine if and what drains are infested, cover floor drains at night with plastic film. When the film is removed the next morning, the infested drains will show an accumulation of adult flies. Control strategy should include a drain inspection or cleaning. Forward flies, aka humpback fly. The adult is 1/8 of an inch long. It is tan to dark brown in color and has a distinctive arch in its back, hence the nickname humpback fly. They feed on decaying bodies and decomposed organic matter. Like the moth fly, this fly is commonly found in commercial kitchen drains. Use the same strategy of control as you would with moth flies. The forward fly, often misidentified as a fruit fly, does not have red eyes. It does not feed on fermented organic matter. They tend to run when disturbed, unlike other flies who take to the air. Fungus gnats. The adult is approximately 1/8 of an inch long. They are grayish to black in color and look like a very small mosquito. The larvae feed on fungus, and this is usually associated with houseplants that are soil rich in humans or are overwatered. Control measures usually involve a decrease in watering or removal of suspected harborages. They are not known to carry diseases but are known for being annoying. Rats and mice. Mice and rats are known as commensal rodents, a word derived from the Latin word com, mensa, which translates to share a table. We unknowingly share not only a table with them, but sometimes living quarters as well. Having rodents living in close quarters with men present a real health threat. They are documented vectors of diseases, such as bubonic plague, salmonella, and typhus. They contaminate food, tear up fabric and paper for nesting material, and in some cases their gnawing on electrical wires have caused fires. Commensal rodents are omnivores, meaning they will eat anything. They are nocturnal and can't see well, but their other senses, such as touch or smell, are very sharp. Norwegian and roof rats tend to be more neophobic, fear of new things, than mice. The three commensal rodents we will discuss are the roof rat, Norwegian rat, and the house mouse. Roof rat, aka tree rat or black rat, Rattus rattus. These rats can be black, brown, or gray in color, approximately 6 to 8.5 inches long and weigh 5 to 10 ounces. The tail of the roof rat is longer than its body. Omnivorous, with preferred food being nuts, fruits, and grains. Droppings are approximately 1/2 of an inch long and pointed at one end. Because of their climbing ability, they tend to be found in higher places such as trees and attics. Can jump horizontally approximately 4 feet, vertically approximately 3 feet. They will range approximately 100 to 150 feet away from their nest. Norwegian rat, aka brown rat or sewer rat. Coloring is a shaggy grayish brown with a lighter colored underside. The tail of the Norwegian rat is shorter than its body. It can grow as long as 8 to 12 inches and weigh from 12 to 20 ounces. This rat is also omnivorous, but is said to prefer cereals. Droppings are 3/4 of an inch long and blunt at both ends. They tend to burrow in the ground and provide nesting sites. They are not known to be good climbers, but are excellent swimmers and are often found living in sewer systems. They will range approximately 100 to 150 feet away from their nest. House mice looks like a smaller version of a roof rat, dark gray in color with lighter underside. Body is approximately 2 to 3 inches long with the tail slightly longer than the body. Weigh in at an average of approximately 1 ounce. Preferred food, seed and grains. Droppings 1/4 of an inch long with pointed ends. They enjoy outdoor living in the summer, but usually tend to invade homes at the approach of cooler weather. They will range approximately 10 to 24 feet away from their nests. Rodent survey. Rodent surveys document signs of rodent activity such as dropping and rub marks. They also show possible rodent entry points and elements that are conducive to rodent infestation. These should be noted on a diagram and include methods that will eliminate such adverse conditions. Things to look for: gnaw marks on wood and other materials. They do this to keep their teeth sharp. Droppings, innate to identification in urine stains and odor. Grease marks on busy runways left by passing rodents comes from their oily fur. Ripped up paper, clothing or fabrics, nesting materials. Exterior food and water sources such as dog food and water bowls. Holes in exterior or interior of a structure which may be or use as rodent entries. Control measures: blocking exterior entry points and eliminating food, water, and harborage sources in tandem with an aggressive trapping program is a preferred long-term method of rodent control. Chemical baits are also an available tool, but care should be taken to prevent rodents from dying in inaccessible areas such as wall voids and between floors. Depending on the body weight and daytime temperature, the resulting odor could last for weeks. The use of exterior baiting programs should only be used around structures that have been rodent-proof, making it less likely to lead to odor problems. Bait stations containing second-generation anticoagulants, SGARs, cannot be placed any further than 50 feet from a man-made structure. The use of non-toxic bait blocks can be used as monitoring stations to detect new infestation or gauge populations. Trapping strategies. Store traps separately from chemicals. Be sure traps are working properly. Check springs and trigger. Nothing wrong with used traps, and empty and reset. Set traps in suspected runways. Traps should be set at a right angle to a straight edge. Triggers should be closest to wall or straight edge. Traps should be set away from inside and outside corners. Use baits that resemble what they've been eating or damaging, nesting material. Traps should be checked often. Do not use glue boards for rats. Place glue boards in similar manner to snap trap placements. Use more traps than you think you need. Occasional invaders. Western black widow spider. Females are up to half an inch in body length. Males half that size. They are arachnids with an incomplete metamorphosis. Females are shiny black in color with a red hourglass on her underside, while males and nymphs are a molted variety of mixed colors and are smaller and have long legs. They feed on insects which they trap in a patternless, tangled silken web. They are not aggressive, but will bite if they or their nest is disturbed. The bite can be painful, but if properly treated, usually not life-threatening. Contrary to popular belief, unless he overstays his welcome, the male usually survives his wedding night and lives to court another day. Brown recluse spider, violin spider, approximately 3/8 of an inch in body length. They are arachnids and have an incomplete metamorphosis. Abdomen is solid cream to dark brown in color with a distinctive violin shape on top of the cephalothorax. Legs have no stripes. Unlike most spiders, they go out and hunt for prey and only use their tangled silk web as a retreat or nest, not for trapping insects. Has 3 pairs of simple eyes, while most spiders have 8. Both males and females can bite. Their venom can kill skin tissue and cause very slow healing wounds. However, even in areas where they are commonly found, reports of actual brown recluse bites are rare. European earwig or pincer bugs. A little over 1/2 of an inch long, they're reddish brown in color and have a pair of pincers attached to the rear end of their body. Male pincers are more curved. They nest in debris such as mulch, bark, and decaying vegetation and are usually not found indoors. They are nocturnal and omnivorous, feeding primarily on decaying plants and also on insects such as aphids and mites. According to an old Hungarian story, they got their name from children sleeping on the floor and having earwigs crawl into their ears. Silverfish and fire brats. They are between 1/3 and 1/2 of an inch long, have a similar slender shape and body which tapers to the rear, where 3 long appendages are attached. Silverfish are shiny silver in color, while the fire brat is also shiny but darker and a more molted gray. During the day, they nest in cracks and crevices, wall voids, and dark, warm attics. They are nocturnal and they prefer to feed on cereals and damp flour, but can also feed on starches found in bookbinding, glue, and paper. It is not unusual to find a silverfish infestation in a structure with a large collection of books and magazines. They will also feed on starched clothing. While they may be found in sinks and bathtubs, they do not live in drains. They have entered these areas and become trapped because they were unable to crawl up the smooth porcelain sides and escape. Besides the coloration differences between the two, the preferred temperature for the fire brat is 90 to 105 and silverfish 72 to 80 degrees. Pill bugs and sow bugs. They are 1/4 to 1/2 of an inch long with an oval body, best described as armored. They are slate to dark gray in color and have 7 parts of legs. They feed on decaying vegetation matter and will frequently be found in self-mulching plants, such as ivy. They are neither a true insect nor an arachnid. They are crustaceans, like a lobster or shrimp, and tend to be less tasty. Like lobster and shrimp, they breathe through their gills, which makes living in high moisture conditions a necessity. For this reason, they rarely come indoors unless there is a plumbing leak or other water source to sustain them. What's the biggest difference between the two? Pill bugs roll up when startled, so bugs do not. Crickets. Crickets are approximately 5/8 of an inch long and similar in appearance to a grasshopper. They are reddish brown in color with long back legs. They have an incomplete metamorphosis and are nocturnal. They are omnivores but primarily feed off decaying vegetation. They seem to be the most abundant in late summer or early fall, at which time they will sometimes invade structures. The best way to prevent invading crickets is to eliminate dead weeds and other organic debris from yards and weatherproofing door bottoms. They make a chirping sound by rubbing their forewings together. This can only be done by males and is used to attract females. Myriapods. Millipedes. Millipedes, which are usually quite small, can vary from half an inch to over 6 inches in length. They usually have 2 pairs of legs per body segment. They are brown in color and shaped like a worm with tiny legs. They feed on decaying plant matter with high moisture content. They also will damage healthy plants if populations grow too large. When disturbed, a millipede will simply curl up. They do not bite. Centipedes. Centipedes are approximately 1 inch long with a leg count closer to 30 than the 100 their name implies. They have 1 pair of legs per body segment. Usually brownish in color with a caterpillar-shaped body, their long legs enable them to move quite rapidly. They are nocturnal and feed on other insects. They nest in damp areas under rocks, stones, and bark. They kill their prey with a bite using modified front legs that have morphed into fangs. If disturbed or provoked, they will bite, but although their bite is painful, if properly cared for, it causes no after effects. Celcids or book lice. Extremely small and usually not noticed unless they move. They are 0.04 of an inch long. They are pale brown in color and look like a very small termite worker. They feed on fungus and organic debris such as flour and skin flakes. They are often found in structures near water sources. Eliminating water and food sources, they are the key to control. Springtails or columbola. They are also very small and barely noticed until they move or jump. They have 6 legs, are wingless, and yellowish brown in color. They also feed on fungus and decomposing organic matter. They're usually found outside in moist soil, but can live indoors in moist conditions that promote mold growth. Similar to silverfish, they can find themselves trapped in sinks and bathtubs, unable to crawl or hop out. Springtails get their name from the forked appendage attached to the tip of the abdomen and tucked underneath. If disturbed, the appendage is released, which results with the springtail vaulting into the air like a flea. Structural Pest Control Act. The Structural Pest Control Board was created September 15, 1935, by the adoption of the Structural Pest Control Act of 1935. The California pest control industry was an important force behind the passage of this bill. It was hoped this bill would discourage illegal activities and change the public view of pest control industry, which at that time was like that of a snake oil salesman. The Structural Pest Control Board is under supervision of the California Department of Consumer Affairs. The board is comprised of 7 members, 4 of which are drawn from the public,
and the remaining 3 selected from the pest control industry. The governor appoints 2 of the public members and 3 industry members. One of the remaining public members is appointed by the Senate Rules Committee and the other by the Speaker of the Assembly. Board members serve no more than 2 4-year terms. They are not salaried but are reimbursed for travel expenses. With the approval of the Director of the Department of Consumer Affairs, the board shall appoint a registrar. The registrar is the board's executive director and secretary and receives a salary set by the board. The board elects a president from within its ranks who shall serve for 1 year and receives no additional compensation. Full text of Structural Pest Control Act can be found Pest Board at california.gov. Structural pest control, as the name implies, refers to pests affecting structures. All other pest controls, such as landscape and agricultural applications, are licensed by the California Department of Pesticide Regulation. The Structural Pest Control Act defines structural pest control as the control of household pests and wood-destroying organisms in households or other structures, railroad cars, ships, docks, trucks, airplanes, or the contents thereof. Monthly pesticide use reports. Structural pest control companies shall prepare a monthly pesticide use report for each county in which they are registered. It shall be on a form approved by the Director of Pesticide Regulation and submitted to each county agricultural commissioner no later than 10 days following the month the pesticides were applied. The pesticide use form will note each pesticide used, its EPA number, the amount used, and the number of applications. A pesticide use stamp, purchased from the board, shall be affixed to each pesticide use form. In months where no pesticides are used, a company must still provide a negative pesticide use report stating that fact. No use stamp will be required on a negative use report. Licenses. Companies doing work in structural pest control must be registered with the board, noting company's name, address, and the names of qualifying owner and operators. Companies must also register annually with the County Agricultural Commissioner's Office in each county they plan on working in. Branches. Licenses are separated into 3 different branches: fumigation, general pests, and wood-destroying organisms. There are also different levels within the branches. They are applicators, field representative, and operators. All applicants must be at least 18 years of age and submit to a personal background check. Branch 1, fumigation. The branch of structural pest control which fumigates for structural pests. Responsibilities include preparation, sealing, introduction of fumigants, monitoring, and clearing of fumigated structures. Training also includes the knowledge of pesticide hazards and use of personal protective equipment. Branch 2, general pest control. The branch of structural pest control which controls household pests other than wood-destroying organisms. Licensees are responsible for pest identification and biology, informing a plan for control. It must include knowledge of pesticide hazards and pesticide application and safety equipment. Branch 3, wood-destroying organisms. This branch of structural pest control deals with wood-destroying organisms. Licensees are responsible for identification and reporting of wood-destroying pests and resultant damage. Licensees must also recognize conditions that lead to infestation and/or infection. They must have knowledge of WDO biology, control, and reconstruction repair methods. Training must include knowledge of construction safety, pesticide hazards, and pesticide application and safety equipment. Levels of licensing. Structural pest control applicator. Applicators are limited to applying pesticides or rodenticides for the purpose of eliminating, controlling, or preventing infestations or infections of pests. This includes pests in branches 2 and 3 only. Applicators may not make identifications of pests or damage, solicit work on behalf of a registered company, make recommendations for controlling pests, or contract for work on their own behalf. There is no applicator level for Branch 1. Structural Pest Control Field Representative. Field representatives do everything an applicator does with the following additions. Field representatives may identify pests, do inspections, make recommendations, submit bids, and secure work on behalf of a registered company. However, they cannot contract for work on their own behalf. Operators. Operators may perform the same functions as a field representative. They can also do work on their own behalf, which means they may own or qualify a registered structural pest control company. Applicator training and experience requirements. Up to 30 days from their hiring date, an unlicensed individual may legally apply pesticides and rodenticides if they are applied under the direct supervision of a field representative or operator. Applicator trainees need no previous experience in pest control. Healthy Schools Act mandatory certification. Beginning July 1st, 2016, any professional applicator, school IPM coordinator, and school or child care employee or other unlicensed persons applying pesticides in schools and or child care facilities must complete annually a DPR-approved training course on school IPM and safe use of pesticides. Experience requirements for licensees. Field representatives, Branch 1, must submit proof of 6 months training and experience in practice of fumigating with lethal gases, which includes a minimum of 100 hours of training and experience in preparation, fumigation, ventilation, and reentry certification. Operator, Branch 1, must submit proof of a total of 2 years of experience in Branch 1 activities, which shall include at least 1 year as a registered Branch 1 field representative. Field representative, Branch 2, must submit proof of a minimum of 40 hours of training and experience in Branch 2 activities, of which 20 hours were actual field work. Operator, Branch 2, must submit proof of a minimum of 2 years experience in Branch 2 activities, which shall include at least 1 year as a registered Branch 2 field representative. Field representative, Branch 3, must submit proof of a minimum of 100 hours of training and experience in Branch 3 activities, of which at least 80 hours were actual field work. Operators, Branch 3, must submit proof of a minimum of 4 years experience in Branch 3 activities, which shall include at least 2 years as a registered Branch 3 field representative. Multiple licenses. A person cannot hold a field representative's license and an operator's license in the same branch. Scope of work. A registered company may only perform work in the branch or branches in which it is registered. A Branch 2 or Branch 3 company may subcontract fumigation work to a Branch 1 company. This arrangement must be in writing and will not relinquish the responsibility of the quality of work for either company. Qualifying manager. A qualifying manager is a licensed operator designated by a registered company to supervise the daily business of the company and be available to supervise and assist employees. He or she may only do work for the company he or she is qualifying and only qualify the branches he or she is licensed in. If a registered company loses for whatever reason its qualifying manager, it must notify the board within 10 days. Unlicensed person. An unlicensed person may sign a contract on behalf of a registered company as long as it has been previously negotiated by a licensed field representative or operator. Advertising. A registered company may advertise for pest control work only in areas where they are licensed to perform. Continuing education units, Branch 2 and 3. Field representatives and operators' licenses must be renewed every 3 years. This begins on June 30th. The third year after the original license was issued and continues every 3 years thereafter. For the license to remain in effect, there are requirements for continuing education that must be earned during each renewal period, which are 4 hours technical for each branch held, plus 8 hours rules and regulations, plus 2 hours integrated pest management, plus 2 hours of general hours. Excess technical or rules and regulations or IPM hours can be used for general hours. Applicators. Licenses must be renewed every 3 years also. This begins the 3rd year after the date they were issued and continues every 3 years thereafter. For the license to remain in effect, there are continuing education units that must be earned during each renewal period. Renewal of applicator's license requires 12 total hours comprised of 6 hours covering pesticide application and use, plus 4 hours of rules and regulation, plus 2 hours of integrated pest management. Branch 1 does not need IPM hours. It needs 4 general hours. Branch office. A branch office is an office in addition to the location of business for which the company registration is issued. Each branch office shall have a branch supervisor who is responsible for the supervising and assisting employees. The branch supervisor shall be licensed by the board as a field representative or an operator. Change notices. A registered company which changes its principal or branch office location, its qualifying managers, its branch supervisors, officers, insurance, or bond shall notify the board in writing within 30 days of the change. Employee change. Employees must inform the board in writing on a form provided by the board of a change of employment within 10 days of that change. Deceased license. In the event of the death of a licensee, the company can conduct the business of the deceased person for up to 1 year. Written permission from the board is required for this extension. Only work that has previously been contracted for by the deceased licensee can be completed. Notification of pesticide application. Pest control companies are required by law to provide the owner, agent, and or tenant of a structure that is going to be treated with a pesticide a written notice prior to the application. Information on the notice shall contain the name of the pesticide and the active ingredient, the pest being controlled in the following statement. State law requires that you be given the following information. Caution: pesticides are toxic chemicals. Structural pest control companies are registered and regulated by the Structural Pest Control Board and apply pesticides which are registered and approved for use by the California Department of Pesticide Regulation and the United States Environmental Protection Agency. Registration is granted when the state finds that, based on specific evidence, there are no appreciable risks if proper use conditions are followed, or that the risks are outweighed by the benefits. The degree of risk depends upon the degree of exposure, so exposure should be minimized. If within 24 hours following application you experience symptoms similar to common seasonal illness comparable to flu, contact your physician or poison control center, telephone number, and your pest control company immediately. For further information, contact any of the following: your pest control company's phone number, for health questions, county health department number, for application information, your county agricultural commissioner's number, for regulatory questions and structural pest control board number and address. In the case of branch 2 or 3 application, this notice shall be provided no later than prior to the application. If it is a multifamily structure or commercial property, notice will be given to the occupant, or if the occupant is not available, to the owner or the owner's agent. The notice shall also be posted in conspicuous places such as a laundry room, mailbox, trash area, or break room. Disciplinary action. The The board may investigate an individual applying for a license, a licensee, or a registered company at any time. A complaint against a person or registered company may result in a formal accusation and subsequent hearing. After the hearing, disciplinary action may be taken against the individual, the registered company, or both. Disciplinary action may include criminal misdemeanor charges, license suspension, license revocation, fines. Partial list of grounds for formal accusations are filing a false license application, aiding and abetting an unlicensed person, negligent handling of pesticides, advertising or working outside the scope of one's license or registration, violating regulations of the board, the AG department, EPA, or any local agencies. Conviction of a felony when the felony is associated to the licensee's pest control activities. Site inspections. California Department of Agriculture, properly known as the AG Department or County AG, is responsible for random and complaint-motivated field inspections of pesticide applicators. They also inspect pesticide storage areas and perform periodic in-house document inspections. If any violations are found, penalties are determined by the type of violations, the amount of past violations, and how serious a threat to an actual health or environmental hazard the violation posed. Class C violations. Violations that are not defined in either Class A or Class B. Fine range for Class C violation, $50 to $400. Class B violations. Violations which pose a responsible possibility of creating a health or environmental effect, or violations that are repeat Class C violations. Fine range for Class B violations, $250 to $1,000. Class A violations. Violations which created an actual health or environmental hazard, or violations that are repeat Class B violations. Fine range for Class A violations, $700 to $5,000. Repeat violations are those that occur within 2 years of a previous violation. Schedule of fees. Operator's examination fee, $100. Operator's license fee, $150. Operator's renewal fee, $150. Company's registration fee, $120. Branch office registration fee, $60. Field representative examination fee, $75. Field representative's license fee, $45. Field representative's renewal fee, $45. Applicator's examination fee, $60. Applicator's license fee, $50. Applicator's renewal fee, $50. Monthly pesticide use report fee, $5. Approval of continuing education provider fee, $50. Approval of continuing education provider's courses, $25. Fee for filing a change of a registered company's name, principal office address, or branch office address, qualifying manager or names of a company's officers or bond or insurance, $25 per change. Final thoughts. A thorough inspection is the first step in controlling pests. Positive identification is critical in determining the proper course of action. Always inspect an application site before treating. Information and views from others are easily solicited, usually free, and sometimes priceless. Revisiting what you already know or think you may know may seem like a waste of time, yet sometimes reveals time wasted. Keeping your safety equipment, application equipment, and attitude in proper working order make for shorter days. S.G. Hunter. And this concludes the reading of Branch 2 Field Rep Study Manual.